What do you do at events like the Mansion Series, MaiTai, and Strategy Day, and how have they shaped you as an entrepreneur? I'll talk about all three. So, Strategy Day was actually a consulting practice I had that I ran in between my first startup and 15.5 when I was living in the Bay Area. I was clear that I wanted to focus on helping entrepreneurs, solving a problem with how they operate their businesses, how they stay engaged, um, how they focus, how they collaborate. And so what I did is I partnered up with another friend who was former president of an organization I was involved in. And I'm also a former president of the San Francisco chapter called the Entrepreneurs Organization, and we had learned a process in that organization where every year you'd get a new board. So there'd be people who take over as membership chair and president and sponsorship chair, et cetera. And as you can expect, they're all volunteers. So very strapped on time. They're all entrepreneurs. So they all have great ideas, and what they want to do is change everything. And so the global organization realized, these boards keep coming, they keep turning over, they keep trying to take the chapter in a new direction, and 12 months isn't long enough when they don't have that much time to dedicate to it, so the chapters end up kind of spinning in a loop. So they figured, we've got to get these folks some direction and get them really focused on just a few number of things they can actually make progress on and have them have a little bit of continuity. So they started doing these things called strategy summits, where they bring in a facilitator, get the board together for a day, and have them get really clear on yes, we could do 30 things this year, but what are the five that are really going to move the needle, that are going to make the biggest impact? And Strategy Day was born out of that process. And I worked with dozens of companies, my friend Rob and I, and we would go in, we'd spend 8 or 9 hours with an executive team and the CEO, and we'd just really force them to cut things out, to focus on, just the key needle movers, the things that were really going to make the biggest impact. If you've ever read any of Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you're probably familiar with the concept of things that are important but not urgent. And generally, the things that make the biggest impact in your company and in your life are the important but not urgent things. And the problem is that there's no urgency to them. There's no pull to do them. And if you don't actually prioritize them and put them in first, they're never going to happen. So we would create structures for these teams to focus on those high leverage important things that are going to make the biggest impact if they just make consistent progress toward them over the course of the year. So that was Strategy Day. And MaiTai and the Mansion series are both related but very different. So and I say they're related because they're opportunities to kind of build network. And MaiTai is something that, just serendipitously, I mean, when I got into kite surfing, I had no idea that it was going to be such a big entrepreneur sport. And so when I moved to San Francisco, I found out that, the founders of Google were into kite surfing, and, there were tons of entrepreneurs in the Bay Area who had resonated with the sport. And there's a guy named Bill Tai who's a phenomenal, former entrepreneur and really fantastic VC who worked with Charles River Ventures for a number of years. And he started doing a windsurfing trip back in the day before he got into kite surfing out on Maui. And he got into kiting, a number of years ago, and met a pro kiteboarder named Susie Mai. And so his name's Bill Tai. And they decided, wouldn't it be funny if we did this event called MaiTai? Bringing together a bunch of entrepreneurs and investors and pro kiteboarders for a week of kind of networking and collaboration on the beach, combining adventure sports and adrenaline with entrepreneurship. And, I was lucky enough to be invited to the second one that they did back in, I think it was 2007, and have been a member of that community for a number of years. And so that's, one of the things that I talk about for people who are interested in building a network, is that you try to find these groups that have certain affinities. Whether, if it's entrepreneurship, great, but if there's also some overlap with some other interests, you can really find these kind of tight-knit communities where you're able to build a reputation pretty easily if you have a frame of kind of going in and really being someone who isn't there to necessarily get something, but that you're just genuinely interested in the people in the group, that you're there to help in whatever way you can. I like to try to find out what people are up to and what they're trying to do in their business or personal lives, and if I have friends I can connect them to that might help, or if I've read a great book that might be helpful. I'm always looking for ways to provide value in the interactions that I have, and not because I'm trying to get anything, just because it's kind of a fun way to be, frankly. And I think that that's led to over time my ability to meet a lot of people, just be comfortable engaging with folks, and connect to a lot of different communities. With the mansion series, when I ended up living in this great little house in Pack Heights in San Francisco, with about 9 people, and it's not quite a little house actually. It was up on the bluffs over San Francisco. It was this big mansion that these real estate developers had decided they wanted to actually knock down and sell, and in the meantime, they were going to rent it to a group of folks. And so I moved in with this group, and there's some great entrepreneurs in the house, and Pat Buckley, who founded a company called Dodo Case that you may have heard, was living there, and I was at the dinner table when Dodo Case was born. And we had all this space. We had this great big library, and a couple of big rooms. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we hosted some dinner parties? And so we rounded up all the tables in the house and laid them all out, and bought a bunch of chairs, and we had room for as it turned out, about 32 people. And so I just started putting together a list of the most interesting people I knew in San Francisco. And once a month, I'd send out a list at like 2 in the morning and say, who wants to come to dinner? And the first 30 people to register would come in, and someone would volunteer to cook. And we would, typically just get together, and it was a mix. It was a mix of entrepreneurs and artists and, different folks who I'd met along the way. And sometimes we'd have a topic of discussion. Sometimes it would just be, just kind of gathering and getting people who didn't normally know each other to connect. I just had a lot of fun doing that as a way to, kind of create something fun for, a bunch of people that I wanted to get to know a little bit better.